So, as many of y'all know, I am going through a church planting school. How many of y'all know that? I'm going to church planting school. And it was important for me to do that because I've planted twice before. I planted in 2009 in Marietta. That flopped on its face in 6 months. Okay? So I failed at church planting before. And because of that, I never wanted to plant a church again. Right? I was content just to be on staff supporting somebody or to be at an established ministry. And so then God sent me to an established ministry. And God allowed me to plant again along with Light of the World to lead a satellite campus. Found the location, was helping to lead the services. Billings, you were there with your wife, and some others were there. Tavis was there with us at that location. That lasted, about a year? Lasted a year. Okay? And I was like, okay, I got another bad hit with church planting. But how many of you know that when God, if you need to put this, raise your hand. How many of you know that when God has something for your life, it doesn't matter how many times you fail, you pick yourself back up and you do it again. But when you do it again, you make sure you learn the lessons from the last time. If you don't learn the lessons for why you failed, then you're going to fail again.
That's true.
But if you learn the lessons from the failure, then failure is not a failure. Failure is a victory.
That's right.
Because any lesson learned is going to equip you to move forward into your purpose and your destiny. I wish I had more than 5 people that could say that. So sometimes God has to help you help yourself. Can I say it another way? God has to put you out so you can do what he wants you to do because he knows you're not going to do it yourself. And so God had to help me start this ministry. All right. That's real. I'm getting 100 flat out. He had to help me start this ministry because I didn't want to. Now, I knew months prior that I needed to, and I'm like, no, I'm good, I'm comfortable. But how many of you know that when God has an apostolic anointing on your life, you're going to never be comfortable? I want you to hear that because we are an apostolic house, not in oneness. I'm not talking about oneness. I'm talking about in terms of an apostolic ministry, being led by an apostolic leader. We're going to never be comfortable. God's going to always keep us on the cutting edge. Look at someone and say, we're going to always be on the cutting edge. So don't get comfortable. Don't get stuck in anything because we're going to always be moving with what God says we are to be moving in. And so this ministry birthed out. And, I was like, okay, that's fine. We got people. Let's just start having church. We're going to lunch out in January. We're supposed to lunch today. But I went to CAP, which is connected to Word of Faith, Bishop Bronner's church planting organization. And Pastor Douglas and I got a chance to go to their training. And it was like, it's going to take you a year to half a year to really plant right. And I was sitting there like, year right. I'm not waiting no year and a half to start a new church. I'm going to start this church as soon as I can. But after going through those 2 days of training, y'all, I said, no, it takes at least a year to start a church right so that it can be healthy and is positioned to grow. A big part, 2 big things, and I'm done. One of the most important things you have to have for a ministry to be successful is you have to have the right people in the right place, and you have to have the right systems in place. So for instance, we have to have a system for how we keep up with you all. We can't be just writing your names down and hoping and wishing we got everybody's name down. No, we have to have a software. There's a software we have where we're putting every member's in there. You know the text messages you get from the church? That's a system that I can contact everybody with one text message. Everybody can be touched. We have financial systems. We have a bookkeeper who does our books for us to make sure that our accounts are what they say they need to be. You understand what I'm saying? Even when people come to visit your church, there's a system we put in place where we can automatically just send them emails. I don't have to send them an email. Nobody has to. It's already in the system. It's already scheduled to send out so that we're touching those who touch our church. You understand what I'm saying? Amen. Without those things in place, all you're doing is having church. Right. And here's the other part of that. You have to have a strong discipleship system in place. Without discipleship, people will come to your church. They may join your church and get saved in your church, but they may or may not come back. So without a solid discipleship track and system, why would God trust you with 500 people? If 500 people came here today, what would we do with those people? I'm not talking about space and where we're going to sit them, where we're going to park them. We'll figure that out. But what do you do with their souls? All right. What do you do with their life? You have to have something for them, because if you don't, they're going to come and you won't see them. Wow, we had 500 visitors this year, but only 10 of them are still here. And so what God is doing in this season is he's no longer sending the masses to folks who have nothing to contain them.
Amen.
Oh, y'all caught what I said? And like, but why people keep going to the big church? Because the big churches have the structures and the systems.
It's so true.
And small churches like, but I don't need all of that. We just started. No, as soon as you start, you need all of this. Because if you don't start like this, you're going to start out as a mom and pop. How many of you know about mom and pop businesses? Mom and pop businesses, if mom and pop ain't doing it, it ain't happening. And God can only give them what they can manage. But I'm believing that God is going to give this ministry so much more. Let me tell you, this is already beyond what I can manage on my own. But I believe God wants to do exceedingly. I just need 20 ambassadors that will agree with me.